Okay, folks, I want to welcome you to another episode of Post Game Conversations, where you get to hear directly from Tribe Football alum, coaches, and supporters. For this episode, we have none other than Mr. Adrian Rich. How you doing, Mr. Rich?
Doing well, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. We got a little chance to catch up, but for those who that don't, before the conversation here, but for those who don't know you, what year did you graduate? What position did you play, and what was your major?
Yeah, so I graduated in 1992. I played some defensive end, but I primarily played linebacker for most of my tenure down in the Berg. And what was the third question? I'm sorry.
Oh, and what was your major?
Oh, my major was government.
Nice,
Government.
nice, nice. So like me, you're a Maryland guy, more from the Baltimore area. So just talk a little bit about your journey from, where you're from in Maryland, and how you ended up at William and Mary.
Yeah, well, so I grew up in Northeast Baltimore. Literally grew up across the street from Morgan State University, where both my parents were alums. And actually, I was rather fortunate in that I was going to a public middle school, and I got somehow siphoned into this program that allowed me to end up at Loyola High School, which is a Jesuit prep school in Towson, Maryland, which is just north of Baltimore. But it was a far cry from the educational path that I had been on up to that point in time. But I bring that up because through that exposure at Loyola, it kind of put me on that college prep mentality that gave me the college preparation that I needed. But it also brought into my orbit colleges that I probably otherwise would not have considered. I mean, just based on where I travel, I probably would have followed in my parents' footprints and probably gone to an HBCU, something of that nature. But Loyola just kind of opened up some doors for me to get exposures to some schools that I otherwise would not have come across my radar.
That's pretty awesome. And so, did you know about William and Mary before recruiting time, or it was one of those things? Because, like me, I didn't know what William and Mary was, right?
Okay.
Did you already know?
So I knew of William and Mary because I knew of Busch Gardens. So
Right.
being from Baltimore, to make a trip down to Williamsburg to go to Busch Gardens, I mean, that's what Williamsburg was all about, as a kid.
Yeah.
But literally, a couple summers of going down to Busch Gardens, and you might have stumbled across the campus or, part of Colonial Williamsburg or what have you. And, I'd be real honest. I mean, it planted a seed in my head way back
Awesome.
when. Never
Yeah.
thought about it again until I actually was going through the recruiting process my junior year going into my senior year.
Right.
And that's kind of where, William and Mary kind of came onto my radar as, something that I really needed to consider.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, full disclosure, I've never been to Busch Gardens. Not before William and Mary, not while at William and Mary, and not since. So, good story. But I got some catching up to do
No,
myself.
I believe you. The last time I went was when I was a teenager before I went to the Berg. I don't even think
I feel a
I've
little
ever
better.
gone for all these years. Certainly not during the years that I was in Williamsburg. So
Yeah. Well, hey, listen. And so you graduated the class of '92, was it?
yeah.
So talk a little bit about your journey, right? I mean, you're a pretty accomplished guy now. Talk a little bit about your journey from, graduating in '92 as a government major to where you are now.
Yeah. So my journey has been very circuitous. Today, I run an IT consulting firm that provides IT services to the federal government. And I founded that company about 9 years ago. And I bring that up because, William and Mary gave me that liberal arts foundation that prepared me to do just about any and everything that, I could step into. But coming directly after graduation, excuse me, went back to Baltimore, didn't really have a job lined up, kind of putzed around and did some menial things for a minute, decided to go back to graduate school. And my mom was an educator. She was an assistant principal in Baltimore County. And I decided that I wanted to be a special education teacher.
Wow.
So I went to Morgan State, picked up a master's in education. Um, all the while, like right after graduation, I had my first child. So I like to tell people jokingly, I had a diploma in one hand and a baby in the other.
Maybe another. I like
But
it.
she grounded me because I had to kind of like be serious so I could, kind of keep the lights on and keep her fed and all that good kind of stuff. Um,
Absolutely.
but I bring that up because I went into education and did my practicum to become a special education teacher, the whole nine. Um, and that lasted for about all of a year. My first job, while working as a special ed teacher, I got thrown into a computer lab. Um, the school I worked for had gotten a grant to
Okay.
build a computer lab for the students that we were serving. And I was deemed the youngest teacher, therefore I must have been computer literate. So literally, my colleagues threw me into running the computer lab, and that was my introduction to technology. And
Wow.
literally, I mean, things just went from there. Kind of left my education aspirations in the background, and have been on this technology track ever since.
Wow. That's a pretty cool story, man.
Yeah.
Now, what led you, just in heart, head, whatever, to start your own, to go from running computer labs to starting your own business?
To be honest, my dad was a hustler, entrepreneur. He was literally, for most of my childhood, I had an image of someone that just never had a steady paycheck. He sold insurance and financial services in Northeast Baltimore, mostly to folks that had graduated from Morgan State University. Um, and and I say that because most of the folks that my dad was trying to sell to were not folks that were in a position to buy life insurance or financial service products. Um, but I just saw him out there hustling and just never giving up. He planted that seed of entrepreneurship in my head. And I actually have two brothers. There's three of us all together. And I don't know why I put up four fingers, but it's three of us all together. And
The struggle.
and
Yeah.
we all, today are running our own businesses in some way, shape, or form.
Wow.
My middle brother has a business he's been running for 25 years, human services, foster care, mental health services for youth. He's been doing that for over 25 years down in Central Georgia. My youngest brother is down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and he has a diversity inclusion consultancy that he runs on the side. He also is a corporate trainer for a large security contractor and has been doing that for the last 5 years. So my dad put that seed in us, put that seed in me. My career was going through, twists and turns, ups and downs. I got to a fork in the road where it was like, either I'm gonna step out on faith and start this entrepreneurial thing, or, I'll be, kind of punching the clock for the rest of my life. And, I just bit the bullet.
That's awesome. Now, how do you feel like William and Mary, you talked a lot about how, your upbringing, your father, impacted that decision. How do you believe that, your experience with William and Mary prepared you for that as well?
Yeah. You know, so I talked about my experience at Loyola High School and how that kind of changed my life. But I really feel like William and Mary was a continuation of that tremendous blessing of, you know, just things that weren't on my radar that kind of fell into my life, and that just has such a positive and tremendous impact in terms of, in the case of William and Mary, both in terms of the experience, in terms of being prepared for just life, but also the education as well. I think, from a curriculum standpoint, from just the challenge of getting that paper, walking across that stage, and what it took to get there, it really prepared me for being able to step out into the professional world and do any and everything. Like I said, I was a government major, been working in IT services, running engineering projects and companies, for over 20 years now, including the company that I now run. And I didn't have the formal academic, training or preparation to do that type of work. but I
Right.
definitely had the mental training and preparation, having
did.
gone through William and Mary as an athlete, but then also, as we all know, you don't take no shorts in terms of what you need to produce in the classroom as well. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome, man. I love how everything came together and you're at a point where you were able to look back and see how all those dots connected to bring you to where you are. So that's amazing. Is there anything else you want to leave with us before we go?
well, I mean, as you can see, I have my tribe pride on today.
You do. You do.
you know, I will say that this was not up here earlier today, but I
I
had to
love it.
represent.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and you see my green wall and everything. So,
I like it.
yeah, I got tribe pride for sure.
You do, you do, you do. And it's been, just been a pleasure getting to know you. Just from a few conversations and even our, pre-interview conversation. Great guy, great individual. And I believe that a lot of, alums and current student athletes can really benefit from you and your experiences. So I really appreciate you coming on, and look forward to whatever the future brings.
Indeed, indeed. And thank you for inviting me. This has been a great experience for me as well. And I look forward to reconnecting with my tribe brothers.
All right. Thanks, sir.
All right.